Hi, hello, my name's Patrick, and I got a bachelor's degree in information design, so you don't have to. And today I will be showing you how to start a research poster in InDesign. So this tutorial will go over how to set up a document. I'll give you a quick little tour of all the things you need to know right off the bat with InDesign. We will create some margins and gutters, and we'll place our content so that we can start designing our research poster to have maximum usability and look really nice. So shockingly, the first thing you need to do is open InDesign. So when you open up InDesign, the landing page is going to look a lot like this. And so what you have here is essentially your create new and open buttons are the ones you're going to be using most. So when you click create new, it'll open up this new document dialog box. And so here's where we can specify the dimensions of our document. So let's click on print here because this poster is going to be printed, and let's give it a name. Okay, so now we have to specify the dimensions. So picas is a unit that a lot of print designers use, but it's really not very intuitive for non-designers. So let's just change this to inches. And so most research posters are either going to be, I think the most standard size is 3 feet by 4 feet, or so 36 by 48 inches. Some conferences will let you get as big as 4 by 5 feet, but typically 3 feet by 4 feet is the standard size. So let's just type in 48 inches by 36, and you will see that you can change the orientation. So you can make it portrait, and that will flip the width and the height. I'm going to stick with the landscape view for this poster, although you can do either one. You can unclick facing pages. And then here at the bottom, which I am blocking right now, here we go. So it's columns and margins, and we will deal with this later because it's a little more intuitive to set these when you can actually see the document. So right now we can just click create. And here we have it, our blank poster upon which we can start building our research poster. So just right off the bat, a quick little tour of InDesign. On the left-hand side here, you will see the toolbar. So these are all the tools you will use to kind of create content, and some of them will manipulate content. Over here on the right-hand side, you have these windows, which will allow you to edit content, modify content, give effects, colors, and we'll get into all of these, or at least the ones you need to know for a research poster, and a different video. But for now, let's go over some of the most vital tools you'll need to know. And there's not that many. You honestly don't need to know even half of these. I have been designing in InDesign for, I guess, almost 10 years now. Well, I'm getting old. But I don't even know what half of these do. So here are the ones that you do need to know. So let's start off with the selection tool. And this is kind of the main tool you'll use to move things around. It's this top one here. It's kind of a not filled in arrow. So you can access this tool by either clicking up here or by pushing V on your keyboard. And with this tool, you can move things around. You can resize things by clicking on the corners or the edges. So this is a pretty common tool that you will be using a lot of. The next tool you should know about is the direct selection tool. It's very similar to the selection tool. A is the keyboard shortcut, and it is just a kind of a filled in arrow. And this allows you to actually select independent vertices of corners. So you probably won't need to actually use this for a research poster, but I'm going to show you just because it might come in handy one day for you. So what this allows you to do is actually select independent anchor points is what they're called, which make up this shape. You can move it independently of the rest of them. So if you've ever used Illustrator, you're probably pretty familiar with this. Again, you probably won't need to use these for a research poster, but it is a powerful tool. So just to show you guys what you can possibly do with it. The next tool is the type tool, and this one is a big T right here. You can just click T on your keyboard to access it, and this allows you to draw text boxes. So if I want to type, I am typing, you just can't see it because it's so small right now. Let's bump this up to something you can read. Oops. If I want to spell correctly. So you can create these text boxes to place text. These text boxes are pretty interesting. So You can change the size if you want to break the text into different lines. Just make it smaller than the actual width of your text. One thing that might make you angry if you don't know what's happening is your text box is too small. It'll won't show you all of the text. It'll create this little plus sign on the bottom right corner. So just make your text box bigger to hold all the text if that ever happens. All right, there's only really 2 more tools left to show you, and these ones are used to create shapes. So the pen tool is every illustrator's best friend. This allows you to create shapes or lines. So most simply, you can just create a line by clicking 2 points. You can switch to the selection tool to end that path, and now we have a line. We can also create other shapes. I can create here like a square, or I can create some pretty wacky shapes too. And so this tool, you should be able to really create any kind of shape that you need to. However, if you're creating a rectangle or an ellipse or a polygon, they have tools for that too. So these are here in the toolbar. So to create a rectangle, click M on your keyboard, and then just you can draw a rectangle. L is the short key for the ellipse. I don't really know why M is for rectangle and L is for ellipse. I mean, I guess like ellipse, but there's not really an M in rectangle. But yeah, so you can create circles and ellipses with this tool. The polygon tool doesn't have a short key, and you probably won't need to use it, but you might if you're creating like a cool little graphic or chart or something. So you just have to kind of hold down the rectangle or ellipse tool, and this little sidebar will fly out, and just select polygon tool. So by default, it'll create a polygon, or sorry, a hexagon. If you want a different shape, you can just change the number of sides. So here's a triangle. And finally, just a quick little note on an option when you're creating these shapes. So if you want to create an actual square and not a rectangle, so every side's equal, you can do so by holding down Shift. And in this way, no matter where your cursor is, it's always going to make a perfect square. The same for circles. If you hold down Shift with the ellipse tool, it'll create a perfect circle. And same with the pen tool. If you hold down Shift while creating a line, it'll create either a perfectly horizontal or a perfectly vertical line, or it'll create a line at 45-degree increments. And just one more thing to note before we move on to creating our margins and placing our content is that you can also, when you're resizing things, hold Shift and Command for Mac, Control for PCs. And this will constrain the dimensions when you're resizing. So if I were to just resize this right here, right now I can make it, any shape I want, but what if I wanted it to stay this shape but just scale larger? So I guess actually this should probably say to scale. Oops. There we go. So what this does is that now if I'm holding down Shift and Command, when I drag these boxes, it'll just scale it to be larger. So this is also true for text. If I just drag this corner out, the text box is going to get bigger, but not the text itself. But if I want the text to grow with the text box, hold Shift and Command, and there we go. Got larger text now. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to remember all of these shortcut keys, don't worry. I have created a little cheat sheet for you, or I'm creating. I still have one more thing to add, but I will put this up in the video description so you can download it and use this when you're designing. And it has pretty much everything you're going to need to know about the tools and shortcuts that you're going to be using to make a research poster. You can thank me later. All right, so back to our poster. Now we need to add some columns and fix our margins. So a margin is the space between the content and the edge of your page. So to edit the margins and columns, you go to Layout, which I don't think you can see. Hold on a second. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. All right, just click Layout, Margins and Columns, and open up this dialog box. The margins, 1/2 inch is probably okay. You can probably go a little bit bigger if you'd like to. For number of columns, so most research posters you're going to have probably at least 3 columns if it's this landscape mode. Maybe you'll have 2 if it's portrait. But this will create guides for us to actually put content so that they're all aligned within these columns perfectly. So increase the number of columns here. 3 is a good number for a research poster and landscape view. And the gutter is the space between 2 columns. And so I'm going to pump this up quite a lot, probably to 1/2 inch or maybe even 1/4 inch. And the reason I want a pretty big gutter is because this poster is going to be read essentially, from top to bottom and then left to right, kind of like you read a newspaper. So I want these columns to be pretty clearly delineated and have lots of breathing room, so that the content in each column is clearly separated from the other columns. So I'll click OK here. And now we have our document, and it's ready for us to start placing content on. So the way that I create my poster content, text at least, is I'll write up like a Word document with all my different texts and sections. And this will be edited because it's inevitably going to be too wordy at first when you first write it. So what I would do, honestly, what I usually do is just come to InDesign, create a text box, and then just copy and paste each section into a text box of its own. So like there's my title, and do that for all my sections. But there is an easier way. So what you can do if it's in a Word document is you can go to File and then Place. This will open up a navigation dialog box, so just navigate to wherever your Word document's saved and click Open. And now you can place all of your text that's in the Word document into a text box in InDesign. And so from here, this is pretty great, but I want actually each of my sections, so like my title, my name, my intro, and my methods, results, all that to be in different text box so I can move them around separately. So what I would do here is probably now just go in and copy and paste from this text box into a new one. All right, so there you go. I have all my content on the page. It does not look pretty. So we'll go through and we'll make this look a lot nicer in the next tutorial. Hello, it is Editing Patrick, and I just realized that I forgot to show you how to place photos and figures, which pretty important for research posters. So let's do that quickly. So to place a photo or a video, it's really easy. Just go to File, Place, and select the image or the figure, and there you go. You can place it right there. So here's a picture of me living my best life on a beach. So one thing to note about images, though, is that if you move this border, you're actually going to be cropping the photo instead of resizing it. So if you want to resize without cropping, always hold down Shift and Command for Mac users, Shift and Control for PC users, and then you can scale just like everything else. And another thing that if you're on the Direct Select tool, so that's the filled in arrow, and you move around a photo, you're going to be moving around the image within the frame. So this blue outline is the frame, and then with the Direct Select tool, you'll be selecting the actual content. So just make sure that you're not moving around photos with the Direct Select tool, or else you're going to get pretty confused. And just a final thing that you should know is that these are not embedded photos. Like the file isn't holding the photograph. It's holding a link to the actual file that's saved somewhere else on your computer. So whatever you do, make sure that you're not moving around photos that you've placed and change the names, because then InDesign will no longer know where to access that photo. So what I usually do is I usually create so I save my poster somewhere, and I'll create a folder right next to that poster file that has all of my assets or all of my figures and my photos. I'm over here now. Woo. So if you have any problems, here's the links panel right here. It'll tell you when something goes wrong. Okay, so I've just renamed and moved the photograph that I placed. So InDesign no longer knows where to look for it. So you can get this red question mark. And now if you double click it, it'll tell you to relink it. So I just reselect it, click open, and it'll relink that photograph. So now we have no problems. All right, back to you, Normal Patrick. So in the next video, I'll be talking a little bit about the importance of visual hierarchy and how to really use visual hierarchy to delineate different sections and create a flow throughout your entire research poster. All right, see you then. Bye. Oh, yeah, and don't forget to save. Very important. File, save as. Then you're good to go.